A Book for IELTS by Sam McCarter, Julie Easton and Judith Ash. This recording is copyright. Cassette 2, Side 1. Practice Test 3. In this test, you're going to hear a number of recordings. As you listen, you will have to answer questions about what you hear. Before each recording, you will have some time to read the instructions and the questions. You will also have half a minute at the end of each recording to check your answers. Each recording is played once only. There are 4 main sections in the test. In the exam, you are advised to write all your answers in the listening question booklet. At the end of the test, you will have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to an answer sheet. So that you can repeat the tests in this book, you should write your answers on a sheet of paper rather than the book and practice transferring them to a copy of the answer sheet. Now look at the questions for Section 1 of the test. Section 1. You are going to listen to a conversation between 2 people, a postgraduate student and an undergraduate student. First, look at questions 1 to 7. As you can see, you have to complete the blank spaces in a questionnaire. You can see that there is an example in the book which has been completed. The part of the conversation which relates to this example will now be played for you.
Hi, I'm a research student in the Social Sciences department.
Yes?
Would you mind if I ask you a few questions to help me to complete this questionnaire?
Well...
Are you an undergraduate?
Yes, I'm in my second year.
You can see that the student is in his second year. So second is the answer. Now the test will begin. Remember, you will hear the recording only once, so answer the questions as you listen. Now listen to the first part of the conversation and answer questions 1 to 7.
Hi, I'm a research student in the Social Sciences department.
Yes?
Would you mind if I ask you a few questions to help me to complete this questionnaire?
Well...
Are you an undergraduate?
Yes, I'm in my second year. Is this going to take long?
Well, no, it shouldn't. Do you mind?
No, not if it's quick. What time is it now?
It's 10 to 11.
I have a lecture at 11:15.
Well, it shouldn't take more than 5 minutes.
Oh, that's okay then.
Right, off we go. You're in your second year, right? Well, the questionnaire is anonymous, so I don't need your name, but I do need some other details.
Okay.
Which faculty are you in?
Humanities.
Oh, right. You're in the Hunter building.
That's right.
And what are you studying?
Chinese and Oriental Studies.
Chinese and Oriental Studies? All right. And what age are you?
I've just turned 19.
Do you live on the campus?
Yeah, I'm in one of the students' flats, so I don't have to do much travelling.
Okay. And which block are you in?
Ben Bradder.
How do you spell that?
B-E-N for nobody, B again, R-A-D, A again, then G for grow, and H.
Ben Bradder. What's that named after?
It's a mountain in Ireland.
All right. You're quite a bit out. It's on the edge of the campus, next to the sports complex.
No, that's Mount Bure's house. We're on the opposite side of the campus, next to the Student Union building. Cornwall House.
Oh, yeah. I just need to ask you a few social questions, if I may. Do you play any sport?
Yeah, squash, basketball, and football.
How often do you play squash?
Usually once a week.
So, say 3 to 5 times a month?
Yeah.
And basketball?
Usually twice a month.
Basketball, twice a month. Right. And how often do you play football?
I'd say at least twice a week.
So about 8 times a month? Do you go to the gym?
No.
Right. And do you belong to any clubs?
The film club and amateur dramatics.
The film club. How often do you go?
Not as often as I'd like. I went loads last year, but this year I don't seem to have much time.
But how often? Say once a fortnight?
More like once a month.
Right. 1 to 2 times per month. And amateur dramatics?
Actually, at least once per week. And if we're rehearsing, it could be a couple of nights and all day Saturday and Sunday as well.
Shall we say 6 to 8 times a month then?
It's more like 9 to 10 times.
Before you listen to the next part of the conversation, look at questions 8 to 10. For these questions, there are 4 alternatives, A, B, C and D. Decide which alternative is the most suitable answer about what you hear and circle the appropriate letter.
And how much do you spend on socialising per week?
I don't know.
Say 5%, 20%, 30% of your income?
Oh, I suppose I must spend 25%.
Is that typical of your friends as well?
I think so. We stick to the university, so it's cheaper. And the sports facilities are cheap as well. And the bar, of course, is subsidised.
And books. How much do you reckon you spend?
Not more than 10%. I borrow most of the books from the library when I can get hold of them.
Right. And what about accommodation and food?
I'd say 50%.
And what about the rest of your money?
Well, it goes on small luxuries, very small. What's this for anyway?
It's part of a study on the change in students' spending patterns as they progress from first year to postgraduate level.
Oh, right. I wish you luck.
Thanks. And thanks for your help.
No problem. Ah, look at the time. I must get a move on. See you.
That is the end of section 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 2. Section 2. You are going to listen to a radio program describing some of the latest developments in the field of science. First, look at questions 11 to 16. For these questions, complete the blank spaces.
Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of Science Tomorrow Today. My name is Bertie Jackson, and today we're going to look at 3 totally unrelated topics. First, is it a hovercraft or is it a plane? The hover plane, a cross between a boat and a plane with elements of the hovercraft and catamaran, is under trial at the moment. The plane-like wings allow the craft to take off in a short distance, and a flexible skirt allows it to operate over water like a hovercraft, moving on a cushion of air. The greatest potential for this craft is as a ferry, travelling between 1 and 2 metres above the water at up to 250 kilometres per hour. Its advantages are those of safety and efficiency. Safety, as it avoids hitting floating or submerged debris, and efficiency, as it can travel at 5 times the speed, but at 1/5 of the fuel cost of a normal ferry. And plans are being drawn up for a large version, big enough to carry 150 passengers and freight for 2,000 kilometres at over 300 kilometres per hour. Since the hoverplane can carry a 50% greater payload than a similar-sized aircraft, but with a 30% lower fuel consumption, and it needs neither special ports nor runways, the craft should be an attractive economic proposition for operators and promises to be a popular ferry in the 21st century. Our second item is bad news for the criminal, but should provide a reassuringly secure communication system for the overworked policeman. At present, a criminal with a radio scanner can detect police presence in the area that he, or indeed she, is operating in. This is now about to change. A new computer-based system will soon replace most radio traffic with digital text messages. These messages will be imperceptible and will allow officers to cover more jobs as they pick up and answer text messages rather than waiting for an operator to spell out commands. What's more, if the initial trial is successful, the system may be upgraded so that even maps can be sent to police cars, allowing pursuits to be visually coordinated. Will this spell the end of the high-speed car chase?
Before the speaker continues, look at questions 17 to 20. As you listen to the next part of the talk, complete the summary using No more than 2 words for each blank space.
And now for something quite different. How can chickens provide not only that delicious breakfast egg, but also the power to cook it? The answer lies in that plentiful byproduct of the chicken farm, namely chicken dung. An enterprising British company has proved that green solutions to the electric power needs of communities can be profitable. In fact, there are already 3 dung-fired power stations in use in Britain, which have attracted attention from other European countries, and several projects in different places are already at the advanced planning stage. We first believed that the only use for our dung was to make electricity, says the British company's owner. But after burning it for power, we're left with a residue rich in potash and phosphate, but nitrogen-free. This provides a far more marketable fertilizer, which we can sell as well as the electricity we produce. In many countries, agricultural waste is even more of a problem than industrial waste, polluting even the sea, where rivers have carried nitrogen and other agricultural waste to estuaries and inshore waters. By burning dung and producing cheap electric power in the process, however, this company is solving 2 problems in one go. That's all for today. Next week, it's chips with everything, a new use for microchips, robots for fixing bridges overnight, handheld lasers for instant blood tests, and the first commercial, fully operational satellite for tracking shifts in climate. I'll be back next week. Goodbye.
That is the end of section 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 3. Section 3. You're going to hear a conversation between 3 students about a tutorial 2 of them have just had. First, look at questions 21 to 23. For these questions, there are 4 alternatives, A, B, C, and D. Decide which alternative is the most suitable answer about what you hear and circle the appropriate letter.
Hi, Sarah. That was actually quite exciting, wasn't it?
You really think so, Dave? I'm completely worn out. If I have to take in another piece of information, my head's going to explode.
It was good, though.
I have to admit it was.
And it was challenging.
Challenging? The last tutorial makes me think I learned absolutely nothing at school. I understood nearly all of it, but a few bits I'm not sure I got at all. Reading is reading, and that's that.
Well, it is and it isn't, you know.
We all read in the same way.
No, we don't.
What are you 2 arguing about?
Oh, it's Terry. Hi.
Reading.
Reading?
Yes, reading.
It's not exactly a sexy subject to be arguing about, is it, Dave?
I don't know. I find it quite exciting, really.
You would.
We've just been to this tutorial on study skills as part of the English literature course, and Sarah's found it difficult to follow.
No, Dave, that's not true. It's just there were some things that I'm not so sure about, or more importantly, sure whether they're important or not.
Well, what was the problem?
Well, when I read, I just read, and Dr. Pratt was going on about all these different techniques that we need to develop and hone.
Before the speaker continue, look at questions 24 to 30. For these questions, complete the blank spaces.
And how do you read then, Sarah?
I just read as I said, like everyone else. I read each word as it comes.
How many pages do you read in an hour?
About 25, 30.
And what about you, Dave?
60, maybe 70.
60 to 70.
That's not a lot.
How many do you read then, Terry?
It depends. About 120.
What?
Oh, come on, Terry.
Yeah, and I'm not unusual. One of my friends doing medieval European history, Arnold, he reads about 160 an hour.
But does he remember it all?
Yeah, I think so, Dave.
I get through only 1 book a week.
Me too. What about you, Terry?
At the moment, 3.
And your friend Arnold?
20.
20.
Yes, but it doesn't matter at the moment. What matters is that you develop your reading speed to suit the circumstances. You could still stick to your reading speed of 25 pages an hour for leisure purposes, but double your reading speed for, say, reading journals or academic texts. If I'm scanning a text for specific information, I can just whiz through. Then, when I find what I want, I'll read through that particular part very slowly. With 40 to 50 or more books to get through in a term, you can't afford to read every word.
Have you always read like that?
No, it's only since I've been here.
I find this all very depressing. How did you do it then?
In the first week of term, in the first year, we had a tutorial on reading.
From Dr. Pratt.
Yes, and I felt so inadequate after the class.
Well, what did he tell you?
He just gave us a few basic strategies on reading, and then, over the last 2 years, he's been nurturing us so that we all now work very efficiently.
So he's your tutor too. You can tell us then what he means when he talks about learning to read the content words only.
Well, this is obviously just the first step. If you read every a, the, to, from, was, etc., it really slows you down.
Yeah?
But if you train your eye to look at the nouns, verbs, adverbs and adjectives,
Assuming you know what they are.
well, then the big words, then you automatically increase your speed.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right, I think I'm going off to the library to start. Thanks for the tutorial.
Anytime. I'm off to the sports centre.
By the way, what was your reading speed per hour when you first came here?
25.
That is the end of section 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 4. Section 4. You're going to hear a lecture delivered by an actress on the difficulties that actors and actresses experience after graduating. First, look at questions 31 to 34. For these questions, there are 4 alternatives, A, B, C and D. As you listen to the first part of the talk, decide which alternative is the most suitable answer for what you hear and circle the appropriate letter.
Good afternoon to you all again, and thanks for coming for the second lecture in the series Drama After Graduating. For those of you who weren't here last week, my name is Jennifer Mackenzie Davis, and I'm one of those lucky ones, an actress with a job. I'm going to talk to you today about the difficulties actors and actresses face finding work. Not that any of you need reminding. It's a jungle out there, and you've got to be very hungry to survive. Are you hungry? Well, I'm afraid you're going to have to be, because if you aren't, you might as well pack your bags and forget all about acting as a career. And not just hungry, but also resolute in getting what you want. And of course, persistent. Not to mention gifted. Between 80 and 90% of you will be out of work at any one time. You are joining a group of people whose average time in employment is 12 weeks a year for men and 7 weeks for women. Why do we do it? We must be mad. And yet there are thousands more waiting to take our places if we fail.
Now look at questions 35 to 40. As you listen, complete the lecture notes in the spaces provided.
Still hungry? Good, because this is where the interesting bit starts. Now we've got the stats out of the way. First of all, where do you look for work? Well, there's the Stage Door, the weekly newspaper which occasionally has a couple of decent jobs in it. And then there's the weekly list of jobs called TCR, but you need to subscribe to that with friends. It's very expensive, especially if you're out of work. About £20. No, sorry, £25 for 5 weeks. Then there's your agent. You'll discover sooner or later that you need an agent if you want to have access to the best work available. But how do you get an agent? Well, unless you're really very lucky and get taken on by an agent who just likes the look of you, you have to get an agent to see you in a live performance. This could be a good part in a play which shows off your talents, or a film role, or just a show reel of you performing your best speeches. I must say, I don't really know which is harder, getting the part without an agent in the first place, or getting an agent interested enough to come and see you. In other words, a real catch-22 situation. A word of warning. They don't usually travel more than a few hundred yards from their office. They're supposed to be working for you, but they actually behave like it's the other way round. As for showreels, if you want them to look at yours, you really need to tie them to a chair and force them to watch. You may find it difficult to get work without an agent, but it will be well nigh impossible without an equity card. Fortunately, things have changed. In the past, drama school students leaving here in July had what was known as a registered graduate equity card. This gave you 2 years to get an equity contract for work. Not that easy without experience, an agent or a full equity card. But even when you got your first job paid at equity rates, you received only a provisional equity card. The union was quite strict about membership, but the alternative was much harder and less likely to result in success. This provisional card could become a full one only after 30 weeks of work. Without it, you could forget the West End Theatre's top tours and work in television. Now, however, things are a bit easier. After you finish from here, you automatically get your equity card. The downside of this is obviously that there are more people chasing the same number of jobs. But even before you start worrying about equity cards and your agent, you've got to establish yourself with photographs. Eye-catching and professional black and white photos, small postcard size for your publicity and CVs. There will be several sessions devoted to choosing the right photos that will show you off the way you are most likely to be cast. And also what to put in your CV and, more importantly with some of you, what not to include. So you see, it's not an easy road to fame and fortune. This has just been an introduction to the trials and tribulations of actors looking for work. Next week we'll make a start on CVs, but now it's time for a 10-minute tea break, followed by a question and answers session.
That is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers. That is the end of the test. You now have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to your answer sheet.